And we are live. What's good, Charles? Man, being Saint. Welcome. I really want to know podcast, man. This is our late night edition, I guess, for Tuesday. Late night edition. The debate is raging right now, guys. As you probably already know. Looks like every YouTuber I know is doing something about the debate, except for me. I'm not doing anything about the debate. Wasn't even watching the debate. Didn't want to watch the debate. My buddy Jay Swans was bugging me. I finally tuned in. I watched, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes of it to where I can hear it. And then maybe another 5 minutes of me just trying to read along as I was talking to my buddy on the phone. It is what it is, bro. People who are the Team Trump people, they're going to love Trump's performance. It's just standard playlist of what Donald Trump does. They turn off his mic so he can't override anyone or whatever. So it is what it is, but it's a standard playlist. And then Kamala Harris, no one really knows anything about her. This was her opportunity to showcase who she is, what she's about to the American people, and more to the point, to that small percentage of people who live in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, because those are the people who are going to decide who the next president of the United States is, not the rest of the country. So, so you got that. If your team Kamala, people are going to be like, "Yay, she did great." If your team Trump, they're going to be like, "Yay, he did great." And then you're going to have the talking heads are going to come out and point out different things. I saw some things just in the quick 10 minutes that I was watching. Trump was doing his normal Trump thing. The moderator asked Trump, he said, "Hey, you were on some social media platform saying you lost the election by a whisker. Does that mean you given up on the whole stop the steal thing?" And he was like, "No, I didn't say that. I was being condescending and sarcastic or whatever." And the moderator was like, "Nah, no, you weren't." That was not how it came across. So when I saw that, I'm like, all right, just typical Donald Trump stuff. He's playing to his base. And then Kamala Harris trying to be the grown up in the room, trying to stay above the fray. But, she's making these facial expressions. She's shaking her head. She's saying things that you can't hear because the mic is off. But I thought that was bad. I thought she should have just kind of held together as if she were maybe at the Supreme Court or a state Supreme Court arguing something. Just kind of, I thought she should hold herself together better. At least that's my 2 cents in it. Doesn't matter. I'm not voting for Donald Trump. So there's no need for anyone like me to watch that. And like I said, there's only a small fraction, a small percentage of Americans who are actually going to choose who the next president is. And the blue wall, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. So just that's what it is. If you guys are watching it and you enjoyed it or whatever, it is what it is. But we're going to talk about air traffic control. We're going to talk about what happened in Delta, with Delta, those 2 Delta Airlines passenger jets in Atlanta who hit each other on a taxiway. And then we're going to talk about a near miss about a couple months ago in Syracuse, New York. So, let's get into it. And we are live. What's good, y'all? Welcome to the I Really Want to Know podcast, y'all. Get some indeed. So we're going to talk about air traffic control stuff, guys. So you guys know who follow me, like my day one guys. Y'all know I'm a retired air traffic controller. Been in the business. I was in the business for over 25 years. I worked for the Federal Aviation Administration, and I worked some of the toughest airspace that the National Airspace System has to offer, which I enjoyed my career. I had a great time being a controller. Very rewarding, career, very challenging career. Not everyone can do it. It's just one of those kind of things. I used to believe that, anyone can do it, but I've come to realize, over my time as a controller, like, nah, not everyone can do it. And, a lot of responsibility. And you want to talk about accountability. You are 100% accountable as an air traffic controller. Now, what management does and the union does after something happens, that's something different. But people are coming to you like, why did this happen? Right? Especially if it was in a controlled environment, if it's in certain type of airspace, or if it was, within the traffic area in the sky, the traffic area, the traffic pattern, like you're controlling that airplane, or if it's on a surface area, a movement area, like a taxiway or something like that. what happened. So this thing in Delta with Delta at Atlanta, let me get my words right. This thing that occurred with Delta Airlines in Atlanta at the airport there, right? Let's talk about that. I was able to find some air traffic control uh, playback that we can hear now. Um, it was a YouTube channel. They kind of have some, some animation that they did, some like radar plots or whatever that they did, and they were able to add transmissions. So we can kind of talk about that. Unfortunately, they don't have the initial transmission, and we'll get into that later. But that's what's really needed, like what was told to the airplanes initially when they called up. But we'll talk about that as we get into it. And a really big airplane was taxiing around and hit a smaller airplane, and ripped the tail off the aircraft. That's the big aircraft ripped the tail off of the smaller aircraft as it continued to taxi on. And we got the radio recordings, so we can hear what the pilots were saying. We can hear what controllers were doing. We can figure out how many controllers were involved and all that good stuff. So, let's kind of get into that. Air traffic control is very complex. It's high stress, but the way it's set up, it's manageable. If you know what you're doing, if you have good techniques and good organizational skills, you make decent decisions, it's manageable, right? So air traffic control can seem so overwhelming, but it's only really certain places that controllers pay a lot of attention to. Like of course they're going to pay attention to everything that's going on to the fullest extent possible, but there are certain hot spots. Be it in your airspace, if you got airplanes moving around, like if you're a radar controller or if you're a tower controller, there's certain hot spots when your airplanes are coming into land or taking off to go, to other airports all over the world. There are certain hot spots that you tend to pay attention to. Like if something's going to go wrong, it's probably going to go wrong at this spot and this spot and this spot. So you make sure you're looking at those spots, right? And of course, anything can happen anywhere on the airport or in the airspace, but more often than not, it's going to happen where, at points, at kind of like choke points where the flows kind of come together, right? So when you're working at an airport and you are the ground controller, and the ground controller is the controller it's responsible for everything that's moving around on the ground on their surface area. So you have taxiways and ramps and all this other kind of stuff that's out there that you have to control. Now there's some parts adjacent to the taxiway that you don't control. That's the responsibility of maybe the airport authority, like the people who manage the airports, where you have like vehicles going back and forth. They might have different companies have their little vehicles or whatever. You don't police that, but the actual taxiway you police. And if one of those little vehicles or like some sort of buggy or, some of those little luggage carousels, if they come off of the places that they're supposed to be and they wander onto your taxiway, then it becomes your problem and you take care of it right away. You have to protect your airplanes on your surface areas away from those people who make mistakes. Sometimes you get people who are in like their regular cars driving around, get lost somehow, wind up on the airport. Now they're driving around the airport like, these roads look crazy. Where are we? Like, bro, you're on the airport. So you get that and you have to deal with that. And as a ground controller, you're expected to see these things. You're expected to see it, right? Like they want you to be the first person who sees it. In fact, they want you to see it before it becomes a problem. And the good controllers, the ones that I work with, would see these things. It's crazy what we would see because we're constantly scanning. Like we're looking there. We have an area of operation, like an area of responsibility, and we are watching our area of responsibility like hawks. We're checking it out. All the controllers in the tower, no matter what job they're doing, they're all looking around for something abnormal. You see something that don't look right, you say something. Hey, what's that over there? That don't look right. And then the ground controller can look over there real quick and assess what's going on and figure it out. So when I saw in the news that a smaller airplane was hit by a larger airplane and it knocked the tail off, I watched the interview, like not the interview, but the news report. It's like, okay, this is going to be a problem for the ground controller. right? This incident involves two airplanes that are on your surface area, on your taxiway, on your movement area. This is what you were here for. It's your job to separate them, and they weren't separated. So that's a problem. So there's we got hold of a video which has the radio transmissions. So they probably grabbed the radio calls from Live ATC. You can go to Live ATC online and pull up any airport, I think in the world, but certainly in America, and you can listen to what's going on right now live. It's just you're listening to the air traffic controllers talking to the airplanes and whatnot. You can do that. Of course, all the big airports, they have some of the smaller airports that are busy or whatever. It's pretty cool. If you ever want to listen to it, you should check it out. It's not a very um complex website. Like, it's not very user friendly, but I mean, it's easy enough to navigate. You kind of go through what you want to listen to, whatever. Probably take you a couple minutes to figure out how to kind of set it all up and move around. But once you figure out how to move around on there, you can listen to airports all over the world. When I was working in Miami, I would listen to my old airport in California. I'll be in Miami at home studying or just doing whatever, and I'll be listening to air traffic control in Van Nuys, California. Just listening to them work, and sometimes it'll be funny. I would hear something and something's not right, and I could pick up the phone and text a friend like that, because I will know who was working, and I'll wait, like, it should be on break right about now. I would text them like, yo, what happened? And then once they get on break, they get to hold their telephone, they'll hit me back, and like they'll tell me everything that went down. Like, wait, how did you know? Like, well, I'm listening. I'm not, like, are you in Cali? Like, nah, I'm in Florida. I'm just listening. So that's one thing about air traffic control. Like, you never know who's listening, so you have to constantly work by the book. And it's really difficult sometimes because we get lazy, we get comfortable, and I mean, it is what it is. But let's get into this video of what happened in Atlanta today. Let's check this out. And yeah, and they gave a brief description of what's going on. Some pretty cool stuff that they wrote in here. You can pause it and read it later if you want. Cool stuff. And I'm not anticipating a lot of people jumping on this live because of the debate. But here we go. Delta 295 is tagged.
Delta 295 Heavy, hold for the Victor. Advise me when you're ready.
All right. We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was?
So you heard there's a female voice that sounds like the ground controller, and she was like, Delta 295 Heavy, advise the tower when you're ready. And she was giving a frequency to tower. Normally what you would hear is a response from the pilot, Delta 295 Heavy, we're off to tower, good day. That's normally what you would hear. But Delta 295 Heavy, which is an Airbus 359, it's like, hey, we just hit something out here. And the ground controller didn't readily respond. So shout out to this to this YouTube channel, because they came up with this cool map of Atlanta. I'm not sure how accurate it is. It's just probably accurate. I don't know. But Delta 295 Heavy was on taxiway Echo, going to the departure end of runway 8 right, looks like. And they said they hit something. Probably here at Echo 2, more likely, where the regional jet was sitting. And I'm not familiar with that call sign, EDV. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that call sign. I never worked Atlanta, never saw that call sign. The regional probably works out the south, maybe the southeast or something like that. But there's a CRJ sitting there at that intersection, holding short of runway 8 right, when this big Heavy went by. Now she's calling Delta 295 Heavy. When I was in, Heavies were like the 747s, the 777s, even at one point when I was working, some 757s were considered heavy, depending on what model it was, and then they changed that. But then those big airplanes came out, like the big Airbus came out, the supers. The 747s came out with a super. And then Airbus had their big old airplane. So when those big airplanes came out, a ton of restrictions came out with them because their wingspan for taxiing. The wingspan was definitely an issue, and weight turbulence was an issue from when they took off. Those engines were so powerful, they would just blow everything over. You wanted to keep airplanes away from those supers. It's, you wanted to keep them above the wake turbulence. There's like a whole lot of issues with those bigger airplanes. So she's calling Delta 295 a heavy. So unless things have changed since I've been out, mind you guys, I've been retired for 4 years, over 4 years now. Things change. Maybe they don't, maybe it's not a heavy, correction. Maybe it's not a super, maybe super's not a thing anymore. Maybe they just all go with heavy. But irregardless, this is a big airplane, and wingspan is always going to be an issue when you're dealing with a big airplane. So let's back this up a little bit and run it one more time so you guys can see what I'm talking about.
Delta 295 Heavy, hold short of Victor. Advise me when you're ready.
All right. We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was?
So Delta just came through here, and they were taxiing down Echo. She told Delta 295 Heavy to hold short of taxiway Victor. You see taxiway Victor here. Hold short of taxiway Victor. Advise me when you're ready. So right there, I would start talking about phraseology. Like, what's phraseology? Phraseology, is the words that the air traffic controllers use to talk to airplanes. Air traffic controllers are really restricted in what type of words that they can use and what they can say. But we're heavily restricted on when we talk to people initially, like for initial transmission and call signs. You always got to use the correct call sign. And for instance, telling someone to hold short of a taxiway and stay with me. I would say hold short taxiway Victor, remain this frequency. Actually, I would say Delta 295 Heavy, when ready, advise this frequency, hold short taxiway Victor. And then he would say, okay, when we're ready, we'll let you know. That's what he's thinking, advise this frequency. I'm going to hold short. Any hold short instructions have to be read back. So Delta 295 Heavy, at a minimum, has to key his microphone and say, Delta 295 Heavy, holding short of Victor, we'll let you know when we're ready. They have to say that they're holding short. Anytime a controller says hold short, they have to get it's a readback. It's called a required readback. Any hold short instructions of a runway, taxiway, whatever. If you use the words hold short, the pilot has to say it back. So right away, I'm listening to that and I'm like, phraseology is just a little bit shaky. Just a little. And the fact that, he's more worried about something that he may have hit versus, her instruction. So listen to it again.
Delta 295 Heavy, hold short of Victor. Advise me when you're ready.
All right. We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was?
So right now, the controller.
Delta 295.
I just noticed.
So Delta 295 Heavy asked ground a question, a very serious question. Hey, we just hit something. Right? So ground control says, hey, Delta 295 Heavy, hold short of taxiway Victor, advise when you're ready. Like, advise me when you're ready. All right, cool. Delta's supposed to be saying, reading back that hold short instruction, like, well, hold short of taxiway Victor. That's what Delta 295 Heavy should be saying. Delta 295 Heavy comes back and says, hey, ground, we think we hit something. And the ground controller does not answer right away. Why? Because the ground controller is trying to figure out what's going on. Now, inside the tower cab, there are a bunch of air traffic controllers up there. Like, I don't know what time of day this was. I mean, actually, I do. I think they said it was 10 a.m. Eastern time. It was 10 a.m. in Atlanta. So there was more than likely a good amount of taxiing airplanes, right? Atlanta's a Delta hub. There's probably a bunch of Delta airplanes going out there. You got the commuter planes going out there. You got airplanes like Delta 295 Heavies getting ready to go out to Japan. You got guys who are going to be flying all over the world. So 10 o'clock a.m., that should be a busy time. So there are a bunch of controllers up there. There should be a lot of controllers up there. There should be controllers that we call local controllers. Those are the controllers who are talking to the airplanes in the air, airplanes that are landing and landing and taking off. So you got the local controller, and then you will have an assistant controller to the local controller. Right? You're gonna have a supervisor walking around. You're gonna have the ground controller. If there are multiple ground control positions going on, like if they split the airport up, you might have 2 ground controllers. There's going to be people up there who do like paperwork, checking flight plans. They're called flight data guys. That's a position. You might have the clearance delivery flight data guy up there. You might have metering. You might have controllers who are just focused on the gates. I don't think that happens at Miami, at Atlanta. I think the gates are run by the airlines themselves. So Atlanta doesn't have to worry about pushing people around and all that. The companies take care of that. I think all Atlanta has to do is once the airplane is ready to taxi, they go to a spot, like spot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. There's a big spot. Once they get on that spot, they call the ground controller, and the ground controller brings them out. And now the ground controller is in charge of that airplane, but they're not worried about the gates or who's pushing where and who's doing all that. That's a very, very difficult job for the ground controllers. That's normally 80% of the job is controlling the gates. So when you take that away, that just lightens the load. But, Atlanta still is a very, very busy airport, a lot of volume, and it's set up really nice. Like everything is in the middle. And I think the runways are on the outside. So you have a pair of runways on one side, you have a pair of runways on the other side, and then everything else is in the middle. I remember visiting Atlanta early in my career, and I was looking around the ground control and looking at, just listening and watching. And I'm like, boy, they got this set up right. It wasn't a whole lot of craziness going on the ground. It was sheer volume and watching the airplanes come in and knowing where to park them. If they can't get into their gates, you still got to park them somewhere on your taxiways. They had like a remote overflow lot. They had it. I was like, man, this is set up right. So it gets busy. So right away, this controller didn't answer. Why didn't she answer? There's probably a controller in the tower screaming like, yo, look out. That airplane just hit something. Like as the pilot is asking, maybe one of the other controllers is saying something, right? Maybe there's another frequency that's in her ear and there's another pilot on another frequency saying something. Hey, that airplane just hit that RJ, right? So, and you're going to hear that in a minute. So Delta 295 Heavy is asking, hey, we think we hit something. They don't get a response. Ground control is not responding. Why? Because they're in the tower dealing with what's going on up in the tower, which is going to be a lot of confusion, not confusion, but there's going to be a lot of chatter back and forth between controllers. There's going to be people holding binoculars and looking like, hey, that Airbus just hit that RJ. There's going to be someone looking, hey, what are you doing? Like even it might have happened before the collision. Somebody might have been saying something to her as she was keyed up telling Delta 295 to hold short of that taxiway, hold short of taxiway Victor. Someone could have been saying, hey, he can't take off, man. He just hit something. So, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. And now you got the pilot keying up asking, hey, did we hit something? So let's run that back one more time.
Ground Delta 295.
I just noticed.
Wait, could you tell us what?
Let's back this up a little bit.
Delta 295 Heavy, hold short of Victor. Advise me when you're ready.
All right, we just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was? Ground Delta 295.
I just noticed that the tail on the RJ is missing. So Endeavor.
So right there, we switched to the tower, right? We switched to the local controller. So I think what they did was they just took clips and smashed them together in the edit. So we're not, because, the local controller will not be on the same frequency as the ground controller. They can do it. They can key in on that frequency, but that's just not going to happen, generally speaking. But the local controller is aware of what ground controller is doing, and they stand normally in close proximity to one another. So like their workspace is close to one another. So they can actually talk and communicate, because there's a lot of communication they have to do. The local guys, the tower guys will tell ground, give me this airplane, this airplane, this plane, in this sequence, because this is how I'm going to get them airborne. And ground will be responsible for setting up that sequence. So they got to be able to talk to one another. And you could verbally just talk to them like, hey, let me get the heavy first, and then let me get the 7-3. I want the RJ last, or something like that. And the controller, the local controller, needs to tell the ground controller this, so the ground controller can plan like, hey, if the RJ is going last, then that guy at Echo 2 is going to be there for a while. So they need to be able to keep that in mind. Like, well, let's keep that in mind. That RJ is going to be sitting there for a minute. So just to give you an idea of what's going on in the tower. So at a minimum, those two are going to be talking and looking at one another and trying to figure stuff out. And more likely there's an assist sitting there looking at this as well. And certainly there's going to be a manager, a supervisor, or what's called a controller in charge. More likely this time of day is a supervisor up there. So the tower, now we jump to another frequency. The tower is talking to someone. So Endeavor, that's the EDV, that's the call sign. Endeavor 5526 is talking to Tower. And Tower says, you know, I just noticed that the tail on the RJ is missing. Don't know who the Tower is talking to. But he's like, hey, I just noticed the tail on the RJ is missing. So everyone in the tower is looking over there because something's going on. So Endeavor 5526, hold your position. And do you require any immediate assistance? Yeah, they're going to need help, right? They're going to need help. And right away, if the local controller is looking and say, hey, I just noticed that the RJ is missing a tail, right away, they're going to respond with the emergency equipment. Normally, there's just a button you push or a phone. You pick up the phone and immediately the crash guys, the fire rescue guys, they respond. They don't even say anything to you. They run to the trucks. They jump in the trucks, and then they'll call on a designated frequency to find out where they need to go. But their priority is just running to get into those trucks. They put on their gear, they jump in those trucks, and they're out of the barn as fast as they can go. So if you pick up the phone in the fire station, it's on a big speaker. They know the phone just got activated. It's like, oh, there's a crash somewhere. Something's about to happen. So they all just run and get into their trucks, and they haul butt out of the barn. And as soon as they're out there, they're asking what's going on. And they have frequency set up for that. So the tower guy sees that there's a problem. You know, I'm going to be backing this up a lot, guys, because it's very important. This is how the investigations are done, right? This is how the investigations work. So we're going to run it back one more time. And this time we're going to let it play all the way through the tower controller saying to the RJ, to Endeavor 5526, you know, hold your position. Do you need any assistance? But let's listen to this one more time.
Delta 295 Heavy, hold short of Victor. Advise me when you're ready.
All right. We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was? Ground, Delta 295.
You know, I just noticed that the tail on the RJ is missing. So Endeavor 5526, hold your position, and do you require any immediate assistance?
We're holding our position and stand by on no immediate assistance. We'll need a tow, though.
The whole tail of that CRJ's off.
Yeah, we got.
Yeah, the whole tail of that CRJ, they don't know who that was. This is why controllers got to use call signs every time they key the microphone, because everyone's out there. We have no idea how many airplanes are moving around on these taxiways at this moment in time. They didn't put all that on this map, right? You got airplanes that are landing, that are coming off, need to get to the gate. You got guys who are at the gate, need to come out for departure. Getting to runway 8 right is going to be a problem. You know, the airport might shut the runway down. The airport authority does that, not the controllers. So the airport might say, hey, we're going to close 8 right, which means 8 left is going to get used heavy, which looks like Victor ties into like Hotel or Bravo 1, so they can get to 8 left. There's all sorts of issues here. So you got Delta 295 Heavy, realized he hit something, but he doesn't know what he hit. And he's out there trying to figure it out. Now, he's a smart guy. And he's like, the only thing out here is that RJ we just passed. We must have hit that thing. Endeavor 5526 is the RJ sitting there at the runway. And they're like, yeah, we got hit. And the controller is saying, it looks, you know, it appears, because that's the controller's number one word is appear. We never say, oh, your tail is off, certainly off. You're not supposed to say that. It appears that your tail is separated. That's what you're supposed to say. Right. So, and obviously y'all saw the pictures, the tail was off. Right. So the heavy hit him, knocked the tail off. The aircraft is sitting there. I'm sure they felt maybe a jolt or something like that, but you can hear the pilot, he's pretty calm. He's like, yeah, we don't need immediate assistance right now, but we're definitely, probably going to need a tow, because he's not going to be able to go under power with, a chunk of his airplane broken.
The CRJ 900 with its tail off here off of Foxtrot 2.
Ground, you copy 295.
Delta 295, hold short of Victor. It does appear that you struck the RJ that's holding short of 8 right.
Okay, that's what we hit then. Yeah, we were on center line. Instructions were echo short of Victor. We're holding short of Victor, and understand. Thank you.
So all that right there, the pilot knew, like, man, we hit that plane. So you got the two pilots sitting up front. The pilot on the right side is looking out there. They knew they hit something. And, the pilot's like, bro, only thing out here is that RJ. Like, man, I think we hit that RJ. Now, from their vantage point, they might not be able to look out the window and see. Like, we just can't see it. It's just the angle in which that airplane is sitting. They just can't see it. So they had to ask ground, hey, ground. Last thing ground told them to do was hold short of taxiway Victor and advise when ready. So they're asking ground, We think we hit something. Ground didn't answer, right? Why didn't ground answer? Because the local controller with his binoculars is like, look, that RJ just got his tail knocked off. Ground, what are you doing over there? That's what's going on in the tower. All that was happening, I would guarantee you that all happened moments after impact. Someone in the tower saw it. Like, ground, what are you doing? They might have even seen the heavy getting close. It's like, hey, ground, is what type of heavy is that? What type of airplane is that? Bam. Oh, snap. And everybody's grabbing glasses. They're looking. Man, that RJ, man, that tail just got knocked off. Now you got the Delta 295 heavy crew trying to figure out what's going on. Endeavor 5526 is sitting there like, what's going on? Right now you got the local controller, the guy who handles the airplanes in the sky, telling Endeavor, like, yeah, Endeavor, 5526, look like your tail just got knocked off. Let's continue.
What did they hear?
Now, and that's another thing too. Once this happens, now you got a whole bunch of people talking crazy. So I'm just gonna run this back right here, and I'm gonna let this run all the way through before I back it up again, because there might be some folks who are kind of confused. I'm gonna back it up a little bit, and then we're just gonna let it all run all the way through. I haven't listened to ATC stuff in over 4 years, man. So I ain't gonna lie to you. It's kind of bringing back memories. Let's get into it.
Ground, Delta 295.
I just noticed.
So let's back it all the way up, and here we go. Bam, it hit the airplane. Tails off.
Delta 295 Heavy, hold short of Victor. Advise me when you're ready.
All right. We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was? Ground, Delta 295.
I just noticed that the tail on the RJ is missing. So Endeavor 5526, hold your position, and do you require any immediate assistance?
We're holding our position and stand by on no immediate assistance. We'll need a tow, though.
The whole tail of that CRJ's off.
Yeah, we got the CRJ 900 with its tail off here off of Foxtrot 2.
Ground, you copy 295.
Delta 295, hold short of Victor. It does appear that you struck the RJ that's holding short of 8 right.
Okay, that's what we hit then. Yeah, we were on center line. Instructions were Echo short of Victor. We're holding short of Victor, and understand. Thank you. What did they hear?
Tower number 6526.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're expecting there to be a hydraulic leak behind us. We're showing dual hydraulic failure consists of 1 and 3.
5526, Roger. We're going to go ahead and have the emergency vehicles come out and check you guys out. There's an operations vehicle behind you there. They'll check out the taxiway. And if you need anything else, just let me know.
What was I thinking? If it's 526.
So you hear how calm everyone sounds, right? That's air traffic control, man. It's air traffic control. Like everything went down. Like, oh, this is a problem. The local controller's like, yep, looks like the tail is off. That other voice, there was one voice that says, yeah, the CRJ tail is off. That was probably the airport operations guy who's out there on frequency. And then another voice you heard, like, what did they hit? That was probably one of the Delta crew just taxiing out there. Now, most of the guys can see it. Someone else keyed up, like, yeah, that whole tail is off. You can see it. So like Alpha Foxtrot 2 or whatever. So you got all these airplanes that are out there sitting there looking at it like, yeah, that's a fender bender for real. And you listen to how calm everyone is. Everyone sounds calm. The ground controller, once she realized what happened, she sounded a little flustered. Rightly so. She's out here like, damn, she knows what's going on. Like, I'm in trouble. Right? She knows it. And the supervisor is also worrying about this, right? So I'm gonna run this back. I'm gonna give you guys a full blown. So we see Delta 295 Heavy here, right? They're on Echo. Echo goes all the way out to Victor and holds short of Victor. It goes out into this big area, right? So you got these two taxiways, right? Echo looks like the inner taxiway, and we'll base it off the runway. So the one closer to the runway will be inner, and the one furthest away from the runway will be the outer. So they got Delta 295 Heavy going via Echo to 8 right. So it's Echo short of Victor. Now, ground control knows they have an RJ sitting here, which looks to be Echo 2. Is what I'm guessing. Is probably Echo 2. I'm not sure. I need a airport diagram so I can, quote you the exact intersection. But I know people, you're looking at this like, well, why didn't they just have 295, Delta 295 heavy on Foxtrot on the outer? Like you can have Delta 295 heavy on Foxtrot taxiing out. He's not going to hit anything over here waiting to go, right? But he might hit whatever's over here. We don't know what is on the other side of taxiway Foxtrot. There's going to be wing restrictions. So we don't know what we don't know what the local rules are for ground control. These taxiways reference this type of airplane, right? This A359. We don't know. Maybe there is a taxiway restriction. Maybe the ground controller made a mistake. Maybe the taxi instruction should have been Echo short of Echo 3. Taxi via Echo, hold short, Echo 3. And that will put them in a hold position here. And that heavy will have to, Delta 295 heavy, advise when ready this frequency, right? And they're like, okay, they're already holding short. We'll let you know when we're ready. So now they're waiting. As soon as the RJ is out the way, they can move them forward short of Victor and then ship them over the tower or whatever they got to do. Maybe they got to bring them down Victor and bring them over here. I don't know what their process is. But the problem seems to be Echo with a big airplane and another airplane parked here short of runway 8 right at the approach end. There's probably rules on it. Like, you have to know your aircraft types. You have to know your wingspans. I've worked at airports where you needed to know how heavy an airplane was because certain taxiways weren't stressed for certain airplanes. So if you had a big airplane, I was at a small airport, so a big airplane was like a 737, 727 at that airport. Well, parts of the taxiways weren't stressed. Some of the ramps weren't stressed for that airplane. It was too heavy. And sometimes controllers would forget, make a mistake, put that aircraft on one of those taxiways that weren't stressed, and they would actually sink into the taxiway. It would sink into the asphalt. You got to figure out a way to get them out of there. So this is all part of the ground control position. You have to know what taxiways you can use versus what type of airplane. So let's listen to it again all the way through. And, just to kind of give you guys, an idea of what's going on here. Delta 295 heavy is taxiing via taxiway Echo. Endeavor 5526 is holding short of runway 8 right, just like we've been saying. So let's listen to it one more time.
Delta 295 heavy, hold short of Victor, advise me when you're ready.
All right. We just hit something on the taxiway. Could you tell us what it was? Ground, Delta 295.
I just noticed that the tail on the RJ is missing. So Endeavor 5526, hold your position, and do you require any immediate assistance?
We're holding our position and stand by on no immediate assistance. We'll need a tow though.
The whole tail of that CRJ's off.
Yeah, we got the CRJ 900 with its tail off here off of Foxtrot 2.
Ground, you copy 295.
Delta 295, hold short of Victor. It does appear that you struck the RJ that's holding short of 8 right.
Okay, that's what we hit then. Yeah, we were on center line. Instructions were Echo short of Victor. We're holding short of Victor, and understand. Thank you.
So that part right there, we were on center line. Our instructions were Echo, hold short of Victor. We're holding short of Victor. What the pilot is doing is letting air traffic controllers know we did exactly what you told us to do, and we hit that airplane. So that's his way of saying this is y'all fault. He didn't question it. He's like, he's on center line. So what's the center line? On every taxiway, there's a line that appears to run down the center of the taxiway. Now, sometimes it might be down the center. Sometimes it might be slightly offset to the left or slightly offset to the right. When pilots are taxiing around on taxiways, they put their nose wheel. They put the center wheel on the taxiway center line. That's how they do it. So all of the restrictions and all of the wingspan restrictions are based on that airplane being on the center line. That's why the pilot said we were on the center line. We were following the instructions. Echo, hold short of Victor. That's why he said that. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Brother Jack Black's in the building. Was good. Yeah, Base, we doing a late night show, man. What's up? We got Base Oracle in the building, man. We doing a late show. The debate drove me crazy, man. I couldn't take it no more. I'm like, I'm gonna go talk about something that's real. Brother Mandrell's in the house. What's good, fam? Appreciate y'all, man. Brother Pablo's in the building as well. He's like, yeah, man, I just got here. What's up, man? If y'all hate my air horn, I don't care, man. These are my day ones, man. I gotta show love. Jack Black is just, he's in air traffic control school right now. He's about to, matter of fact, bro, today was your last day. Jack Black, today, did you graduate, man? Did you graduate from air traffic control school, man? I bet you did. Don DeMarco to you, bro. Don DeMarco to you. I will be talking to you tomorrow, man. Let me know if you passed. I know you did. You must have passed. Let me know. Oh, he said October. That's what I thought. I thought you said this month. I was like, bro, that's awfully quick. So it's October 10th. My bad. My bad. And I am not your mom, and you know that. So back to your question. How wide is taxiway echo? I don't know. It might be wider than the standard because this is Atlanta. I don't know. They deal with big airplanes. I don't know how wide it is. Most airports are not big enough for these huge airplanes that they're making, these heavies and these supers. So this is why you have these restrictions. Some of these restrictions are rolling restrictions. There are restrictions designed just for certain type airplanes because the airplanes are so big. Some of these airplanes are so big that they have to have the airport operators driving along the sides to make sure they don't hit stuff, right? So this one surely looks like the ATC is going to buy it. I don't know how wide echo is. I never worked at Atlanta. This is how it is. Educated Tyrone's in the building. What's good, fam? What did ground and Brother Pablo wants to know, what did the air traffic controllers do wrong? Well, the air traffic controllers didn't see the conflict between this big airplane, this Delta 295 Heavy, and Endeavor 5526, which is a CRJ, which is a smaller airplane compared to the Heavy. The ground controllers should have noticed the conflict or the possibility of a conflict. One of the things I used to tell the people that I trained when I was an air traffic controller and I was training people, I would tell them, whenever someone wants to taxi out and you work in ground control, you have to look at the position where they are and then, draw an invisible line all the way down the taxi route that you want to give to the position that they want to go to. So if they're at the gate and they want to get to the runway, you got to draw this invisible line and follow that line with your eyes while you're sitting there looking. All right, these guys are at whatever gate, spot alpha or whatever. Probably like, okay, this guy's at spot 6. He wants to go to A right. So I'm going to give him Echo 5, Echo short of Victor for runway A right. I'm looking, as I'm thinking that I'm looking, okay, I don't see anything anyway. Delta 295 Heavy, Atlanta ground, runway 8 right taxi via Echo, hold short of Victor, right? And then Delta 295 Heavy is going to read that back. Great. Now, that's the first part. I looked, I scanned, but guess what? This is a moving picture. So this picture is going to change 4 or 5, maybe 15 times before Delta 295 Heavy gets to runway 8 right. So you got to continue to scan. The ground controller put Endeavor 5526 at that intersection or was briefed that Endeavor 5526, a CRJ, is sitting at that intersection. So that should be part of your scan. So as you scan, you're going, everything is good. Delta's coming out of Foxtrot 5. He's turning left on Echo. He's looking good. Uh-oh. I forgot about that RJ. I thought the RJ would be gone by now. Locals backed up a little bit. So, okay, let me amend the instructions to Delta 295 Heavy. Delta 295 Heavy, hold short of Echo 3. Delta 295 Heavy will hold short of Echo 3. Done. Now he has to stop at Echo 3. He can't even get close to Endeavor 5526. He's going to stop at Echo 3, and I'm going to assess this issue. I'm going to look at this issue. I got outs. I'm at Echo 3. Looks like I can maybe use Foxtrot 2 to Foxtrot, maybe kind of jog around that guy or just sit here and wait until Endeavor moves. I can sit there and listen to local. Let me look over and look at his lineup. Okay, Endeavor 5526 is next to go. So I'm just going to wait until he takes off. Delta 295 Heavy has a bunch of checks to do. They're international. Their checklist is long. It's going to take them a while to get through it. They're never ready to go when they get there. It's just too much that they got to look into. So I'm not worried about getting Delta 295 Heavy to the runway as fast as possible, right? So to answer your question, Brother Pablo, it's the ground controller's responsibility to ensure that no collisions take place in the system. And these are airplanes that are on the ground, just moving around on the ground. It is what it is. He was like, nah, them horns straight. I appreciate you, bro. I'm gonna keep the horns popping. And brother Jack, like, I told you October. Yep, that's what it is, man. I keep messing up. I thought you said this month. I thought you said September. But still, October 10th is good, man. You stay on track. You study and pay attention to this kind of stuff. So the ground controller in this situation, something went wrong. There was something wrong with the scan. Maybe there was some anticipation going on. Maybe there was an experience gap there. Like maybe this is a newer controller, like just got certified or haven't been, doesn't have a lot of experience at his position, working this time, right? So initially everything is going to fall on that controller, but then it's all going to fall on after that, they're like, okay, the controller messed up. If that's what happened here, now they're going to go talk to the supervisor. Why didn't you get that controller some help? Why didn't the supervisor see Endeavor 5526, the CRJ sitting there at that intersection? Why is it that it got past you, Mr. Supervisor? Why did it get past the other controllers? Well, the other controllers got work to do. Maybe someone said something and ground just forgot. This is why they do the investigations. And Brother Tyrone, he's saying, your episodes about air traffic control with Fresh and Fit was one of their best episodes. Yeah, man, I appreciate that, bro. We're trying to give people a shot. It's a great career, right? If you follow the basics and you work with solid techniques, you won't get yourself in these situations. I mean, that's just the bottom line when it comes to air traffic control. Airplanes are moving around. They're too big for the airport. You just got to work with it. When I talked about hot spots, right? There are hot spots. You just kind of look at it like, oh, this is one of those things I'm talking about. I got this airplane with this huge wingspan. I really got to pay attention to where I put this airplane. You're going to have to put, an invisible ring around that airplane in your mind. They even have ground radar, right? The ASDX system. You can actually put a ring around that airplane as it's taxiing around to remind you like, oh, that's the big boy. I need extra room. So let me look out the window and see who's where. There's so many tools in air traffic now that'll help you out. This is one of those things, bro. Like it's definitely going to be a problem for air traffic. They bought a heavy and they bought a RJ. Uncle Sam was gonna have to bite this one. The Delta 295 heavy. Hey, okay, that's what we hit. Like, yeah, he's telling no, like, yeah, we saw it there, but he's thinking we must be okay because the controllers are telling me to go up there. And they didn't question it. They didn't like kind of stop, like, well, maybe we can't fit. They were just like, nah, man, they tell us we can go, let's go. And they hit the airplane. That's 100% on air traffic control. And he told the controller, we did exactly what you told us to do. We're on the center line. We are on Echo. We're short of Victor, and we're going to stay here until you tell us what to do again. So he's just that's just their way of saying, yeah. And then you listen to the crew in Endeavor 5526. They're calm. There's no fires, no smoke or anything like that. They're like, okay, you're telling us our tail has been knocked off. We believe you. Like, we believe you. And they're talking to their company. They're talking to Delta. Hey, we got a problem out here. We're going to need a bus or we're going to need a tow. We're going to have to get these people off the airplane and we're going to have to get towed back. And you got the airport operators out there. They're going to talk to the crew. This is definitely a mess. I think this thing started like at 10 a.m. local time in Atlanta. I didn't hear about it until like noon or 1 o'clock. And that thing was probably there until about 3 or 4 o'clock before they actually moved that airplane. Guaranteed. It's just one of those things. You have to pay attention in air traffic control. So Jack Black is saying, whole short Echo 3, not Victor. Lady was in her groove and just messed up. We are human. I'm just happy it wasn't a midair. Yeah, bro. I mean, it is what it is. You talk about a groove. People kind of get into that groove. It's probably normally Echo short of Victor. That's probably how it is a million times a day. Airplanes taxi out, Delta, whatever, taxi, runway 8 right taxi via Echo, hold short of Victor. It's probably like that time and time again. And you kind of get lulled into that false sense of security, whatever. It's robotic, right? It's just robotic. And a lot of times it's like, nah, you got to look out. That's a big airplane. You can't do that. Maybe it is Foxtrot short of Foxtrot 2. It might be just for that guy. It might be Echo 3 Foxtrot, hold short of Foxtrot 2, because you got to get him around that thing. That might be. We don't know. We don't know how much room it would be on the other side of that, but that's what I would be looking for. Another thing too, you got this big heavy coming down the taxiway. Any airplanes coming off of 8 right, it's going to be this heavy is going to be a factor for him. So again, that's like a rolling problem for you. All the way down past Echo 5, Echo 7, probably Echo 8 and on down the line. You don't know how far he was and where he came from. So, and that's something you got to coordinate with local. You don't know who controls the taxiways to tie into the runways. So if you got a big airplane coming up, and let's say you got an airplane that just landed, you got an airplane on a runway, you got an airplane that wants to land. And this is going to work out just fine, just so long as the airplane who just landed gets off at Echo 5, which is what we call a high-speed taxiway, kind of. You know what I mean? He can kind of get off at Echo 5 there. It's not, it's not really a high speed, but he can kind of slow down. He's like, yep, the pilot to tell you, yeah, we'll make Echo 5, no problem. He gets off at Echo 5 and boom, he looks up and there's a big old Delta 295 heavy Airbus 359 sitting there. Like, bro, he has to stop, which means he's still on your runway. There's something impeding his progress to taxiway Echo. He's still on your runway. He might not be able to clear the whole line. Now you got a problem. Yeah, you got 8 left over here. Maybe you can move your ground final over to 8 left and land. If you got an airplane on a runway, you got a problem. So when you commit to something like that, you got to make sure ground doesn't jam you up. This is all air traffic control stuff. This is why the job is so difficult. The puzzle is constantly changing. So, and what I meant by high-speed taxiway, like 8 right is going that direction. Oops. Easterly. 8 right is going like an easterly direction. So if they were on 2-6, which is the opposite direction, this Echo 3 would be considered a high-speed taxiway because they're landing on runway 26 and they don't have to slow down that much. They could just kind of take the half left turn and get off at this high speed, continue to slow down, right? That's what's considered a high speed, guys. This Echo 5 is not a 90 degree, but it's kind of close. But I mean, it is what it is. Just giving you guys a little bit of extra sauce there. Controllers know what I'm talking about, but I think this is 100% ground control's problem, right? When Delta 295 heavy asked, hey, we hit something, and the ground controller didn't answer right away. There was a lot of commotion in the towers, a lot of guys in the tower. They were like, hey, Airbus just hit that RJ. There's controllers yelling back and forth. There's controllers saying, hey, roll the crash equipment. You got the supervisor running up. What's going on? People are trying to explain. You still got airplanes moving around. The ground controller has to do a lot of talking because that's the problem. You don't necessarily want to taxi a bunch of airplane people by an airplane with the tail knocked off. You want to try to avoid that, right? It's just a bad look. You about to take off and look at that airplane. Doesn't have a tail. There's still work to be done. She's still, this particular controller has a lot of work to do. And, she's just kind of like trying to answer questions. People are looking at what's going on. The soup is on the phone. You got people calling the crash equipment. People are talking to airport operations. The operations managers are calling. The facility chief is calling. People are starting to come upstairs. It starts to get crazy quick up in that tower. So, and as a supervisor, you're trying to figure stuff out. You got to jot down times. You're doing all kind of stuff, right? You got to get this controller a break. You got to get another controller up here. So you got to get on the phone. Hey, send so-and-so up here, right? Then the question becomes, do we have any more controllers? Right? We might not have any more controllers. Now you're like, oh, well, we got to start combining positions and it's busy. Now you got real problems. So this is how the things snowballs into a big, big mess. I wish we had the transmission, the very first transmission to Delta 295 Heavy. That's what they're going to be listening to. That's what they want to hear. What were the initial instructions given to Delta 295 Heavy? They're also going to want to know what instructions were given to Endeavor 5526. And they're going to want to know why Endeavor was placed here and not on the Victor loop. Maybe there's a reason for that. Don't know. But they're going to want to know, when did Endeavor 5526 get into this taxiway holding short of 8 right? They're going to want to know when. So there's going to be a lot of questions. A lot of questions. This does not look good for the ground controller. And this is a bad one. This is something that shouldn't have happened. You know, you're dealing with a big airplane. You know, you're dealing with a heavy. You know, you got, extra wingspan to deal with. I'm pretty sure that this situation is covered in training. I'm pretty sure that there are rules to cover this. And what the FAA likes to do is make more rules because they think that's what's going to help. It's like there's probably already a rule regarding the heavies in this part of the airport around 8 right and all this kind of stuff. There are probably already rules, right? And those rules get broken and things go wrong. So what's the FAA going to do? They're going to come up with another rule. Like, oh, we came up with a rule that all heavies, all airplanes of this type with this type of wingspan have to be held short on Echo, short of Echo 3, no matter what. Those rules they think that's going to fix the problem. It doesn't. It does not fix the problem. Every airport is going to have issues with wingspan on different type airplanes. I've never been at an airport, never worked at an airport, never heard of an airport that didn't. Wingspan restrictions and weight restrictions. So, like, trust and believe that they know that this is a problem. Like I said, this is a hot spot. If you're working ground control in this configuration, runway 8 configuration, 8 left and 8 right, this is an issue on this side of the airport. This is an issue. Like, yeah, if you're taxiing out a big airplane with wing restrictions, you're going to have to watch out right around here, right around Foxtrot 2, Echo 3. This is a problem. I'm pretty sure it was trained that way. I'm pretty sure this person took a lot of tests and knew it. They just blew it. And that's just how it works. So this just happened today. It's going to be a while before they get to the bottom of it. The FAA is just going to hope that people forget about it. But the NTSB is going to put out a report. When that report comes out, maybe we'll be able to find it and get the findings. They'll talk about training. They'll talk about time on position, like how long was the ground controller there, how experienced that ground controller was, how many days that ground controller worked prior to this, where they were in their weekly schedule. All that's going to come out. When they certified, all that stuff is going to come out. And when it does, hopefully we'll get a peek at it. When the NTSB does their investigation, they're going to put in that investigation all of the local rules pertaining to taxiing these type airplanes on this part of the runway using, this part of the airport using taxiways. They're going to, all that'll be in there. So hopefully, and that's going to be months before we see that. But hopefully, when it does come out, I'll catch wind of it and be able to pull it up because that's all Freedom of Information Act stuff. They put it out for the public. It's just good reading. Delta's not going to sue Atlanta. If Delta were to sue anybody, they would sue the FAA. It's the FAA owns and is responsible for all aircraft on these active taxiways. Again, I have very limited information here, but this one seems like it's 100% FAA. The ground controller made a mistake. So Delta's not going to have to sue anybody. The FAA is just going to pay, just outright. They're just going to pay. The controller may get some retraining, maybe not. Like the FAA has changed on their procedures when controllers make mistakes. Not quite sure what will happen. In my estimation, the controller could benefit from some remedial training. I'm pretty sure there'll be some type of remedial training, and that controller will have to work with another controller for X amount of hours after running a bunch of sims. Probably have to go into the sims, the simulator for a bunch of hours, then come out of that, do some classroom, and then come out of that and have to work with another controller for a few hours and then basically recertify. That may happen. That used to be standard when I was coming up, but that has all changed over the past, 8 to 10 years or so. That's all changed. I'm not quite sure what the FAA is going to do about the controller, but I know the FAA is going to buy that airplane and fix that heavy. That's just, the government's going to pay for that, bro. That's just how it works. So, a lot of air traffic controllers are really worked to the bone. Like they're stressed out. They've worked hard. They're continuously working hard. Their minds are just shot. A lot of them, like they're just overworked. The only time off they're getting is what's guaranteed by the contract. The only way they can get out of work is to actually use sick leave. It's just a mess. And you get so much overtime. It's just crazy. that is going to factor into this. In my opinion, the FAA wants to keep that on the low. They don't want people to realize that there's an air traffic controller shortage. And even though the FAA is trying to get more and more controllers through the academy and online, they're not going to come out of the academy and go to a busy place like Atlanta, LAX, Miami, LaGuardia, you know what I mean, the Common Eye. They're not going to be going to those places like Chicago O'Hare. You want to talk about one of the toughest places to work as an air traffic controller in a tower. Like, I'm a good tower controller, but Chicago O'Hare was a nightmare. I know a guy that worked there, and he was just we were just talking air traffic stuff. And I'm like, y'all doing what? I'm looking at the airport layout and what's going on. I'm looking at, radar, feeds of what's going on in real time, like their ASDX, and I'm looking at what's going on in the sky. Like, oh my goodness, like this is a tough airport to work. You couldn't pay me enough to work there. And they're having these problems. It's like people get there, and then even the people who are good enough to work there, they get there, they're like, they can do it, but they realize they're never going to get any time off. They're not going to be able to spend any time with their family. They're going to be working constant overtime. They're going to be working 6-hour work weeks, like forever. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to be here. And they just failed the last few tests and wound up getting sent somewhere else, and some other airport somewhere, like maybe Tampa or St. Pete. You know what I mean? Some cool, maybe Atlanta, like some cool airport somewhere where it's not as difficult. Maybe the cab, making the same amount of money, loving life, right? Only working 5 days a week, hardly ever getting overtime, or only working overtime that they want to work, not having any trouble getting time off, no trouble getting leave, plenty of controllers. These smaller facilities have plenty of controllers there, but you can't force these controllers to work at the more difficult, the more complicated airports. So the FAA is trying to figure that out. So what do? They offer money. Money is always a good motivator. They offer money, but money only gets you so far. When these controllers realize they're never going to get time off, and if they really don't, like, man, this is just too much work, I don't want to do it, they move on. Yeah, and like even Jack Black is saying, man, those sims are tough, bro. Those problems really like cook your brain. It cooks your brain at every level. As you continue to get better and more experience, I can always develop a program. Like, I could go into anybody's sim, whatever sim they have set up, and I can just make 2 changes to that sim that'll make that problem so difficult, make you think so hard that it's just crazy. I've done it. I take my trainees into the sim and we just do things. Well, add this, or add this type of aircraft, or add this sort of situation. Boy, to blow their mind. I used to do that the last sim of the day. I used to blow their minds. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and that's it. They got to go sit down, take a break for at least 30, 45 minutes just to get their head right. And I'm like, all right, once you're done for the day, see you. The sims ain't no joke. Sims ain't no joke. And the sims are nowhere near what's going on in real life. The sims have gotten way better over the years, but it's nowhere near what you're going to encounter in the real world. So there's one more video I want to cover about air traffic control. This incident happened a couple months ago in Syracuse, New York. I'm not sure if you guys were familiar with this, but there was a close call there. We're going to watch this news report and let you guys see what I am talking about. Vast Aviation. Appreciate this. So this is where
Tower, hello, Blue Streak 5511, visual 28.
Blue Streak 5511, Syracuse Tower, runway 28 for the line.
Clear man, runway 28, Blue Streak 50.
So Blue Streak 5511 checked in on this initial call. He called Syracuse Tower, right? Blue Streak 5511 is with you on final. That's him right here, which is looks like about a 1.5 mile final or so to the runway. 1.5 mile final. He's right there. So if that was the first call, that was a late call in my estimation, but Tower answers him. Blue Streak 5511, Syracuse Tower, clear to land. Runway 28. So I would have said runway 28 cleared to land. And well, that's probably what the controller said. And the pilot, he read it back. Cleared to land, runway 28. Normal stuff. So they just cleared this jet to land.
511.
Yeah, 5421, Syracuse Tower, runway 28, clear for takeoff.
So right there, the same controller just cleared somebody to take off on runway 28. So you got Blue Streak 5511 out there in about a 1.5 mile final. Endeavor 5421 has been cleared to take off on runway 28. The same controller just cleared him. And then you have this Charlie Golf Alpha Golf India. There's a helicopter out there landing somewhere. So he's talking to that helicopter as well.
Take off runway 28, that's 5421.
Turkey Tower, helicopter, Charlie Golf Alpha Golf India.
Charlie Golf, Alpha Golf India, there's some shot landing at Millionaire Ramp, future on rescue caution, not moving area.
Wait, who?
So the helicopter checked in. So the controller's talking to 3 airplanes. You got 1 airplane that's coming up on about a half-mile final. You have the airplane you clear for takeoff. And then you have Charlie Golf Alpha Golf India is a helicopter out there, wants to land on the Millionaire Ramp, which is non-movement. Whatever the phraseology he's using is pretty much textbooks, pretty good. And you also have this November 322 Mike X-ray out there at 6,500 doing about 100 knots. So that looks like probably some Cessna or something like that, just floating around out there, visual flight rules. So at this point, one of the pilots are like, wait, did you just clear someone to take off on 28? Because they're landing on 28 and they're about to land.
Who's cleared to take off on 28? Golf Alpha Golf India, Roger, proceeding to the Millionaire Ramp.
5511, Turkey Tower, go around.
Blue Streak 5511. Right? That's the guy who asked who's clear for takeoff on 28. So the controller obviously forgot about Blue Streak 5511, cleared this other airplane for takeoff. Blue Streak had to say something. The controller says go around. Blue Streak 5511 going around. What does that mean? That means that the airplane can't land. So when a controller tells you to go around, you're coming in for landing, they tell you to go around, you power up and you just take off. Now, when you go around, you generally fly the runway heading. Whatever the runway heading is, which is in this case 28, you're going to fly a 280 heading. And it's also considered a missed approach. So there's a missed approach procedure for these IFR jets. So the pilot's going to fly the published missed approach, whatever that is. So the controller needs to know what that is. But the problem is you got an airplane that you cleared for takeoff is about to take off. And you got an airplane that was trying to land that you told to climb out. So let me get this right. So you're going to have one airplane climbing out and the other airplane climbing out. You got to control this, right? You got to control this. That's why you're an air traffic controller. Someone's going to have to stop their climb. Someone's going to have to turn left or right to avoid it. Now, it's going to be hard to make a left turn because you got that November 322 Mike X-ray out there at 6,500. These guys are coming off the deck, basically. Guys coming like at 800 feet. Like, this dude's trying to land. And like 800 feet below him was an airplane that's taking off, and they're going to climb. So this is a problem. You must have a plan. If you're an air traffic controller and you don't have a plan, you are wrong.
Turn around, Blue Streak 5511.
Those are the two airplanes. Someone took pictures of it.
Enter left closed traffic, runway 28 for the line.
Left close traffic and clear land 28.
So those two airplanes got to within vertical separation 500 feet, horizontal separation 0.1 nautical mile. Right? Basic IFR requirements is 1,000 feet and 3 miles. That's how much separation they're supposed to have. Basic IFR separation, 1,000 feet and 3 miles. There are other means of separation that can be worked here. You can do what's called visual separation, where the controller can actually see both airplanes, but you got clouds out there. You know, you can see both airplanes. He told one airplane, he told Blue Streak 5511 to make left traffic, which means Blue Streak is going to make a left turn and come back to the runway to land. It's very weird to give an IFR airplane VFR instructions, but that's what they're doing. I don't know what the radar authority is doing. I don't know what the, like the letter of agreement between these two facilities is. I don't know. But you got these two airplanes that one was climbing straight out and one was climbing up and straight out. Worst type of situation. You got an airplane coming from below, climbing into an airplane that's above them. Vertical separation, man, like 500 feet between them and 0.1 nautical mile. And mind you, you're supposed to have 1,000 feet of vertical separation and 3 miles of horizontal separation. So 1,003. That's, Brother Jack Black, remember that wherever you wind up, man, 1,003. So let's see what happens.
Blue Streak 5511.
Delta 5411 flying 310.
310 off heading Endeavor 5421. Responding to an RA. Up, now we're clear. 5511.
Responding to an RA. There's radar on board the airplanes, and the air that is like the last resort. That's the computer trying to save the pilot. So when they get an RA, they have to do what the computer tells them to do. They'll tell them to turn, climb, descend, or whatever. So they got the RA, and then the RA stopped because they were already in a left turn, probably, so they can do that left closed traffic thing. So you had this airplane coming up behind them. They're turning left. The computer's like, oh, it's a problem. This thing is fast. It might hit us. But they turn fast enough to where it's like, stop. The computer wasn't scared anymore. But you gave the 310 heading to the other airplane. This is the worst scenario in air traffic control right here. The air traffic controller didn't do anything to control the situation. Once you send the first airplane around, you got the other airplane taking off. You need to restrict that airplane that's below them, or you need to turn these airplanes. You need to separate these airplanes off the deck. As soon as they're coming off, you got to do something to separate these airplanes. A 5-degree left turn with the higher airplane, and a 5-degree right turn to the other airplane. That's going to give you a little bit of divergence there. They're not going to hit each other if you don't want to restrict their altitudes. Right. I don't know this airspace, and I don't know what kind of restrictions they have there, but the guy that was taking off, I would have restricted him. Yeah, I would have told him, gave him a hard altitude and told him to stop his climb. You got to tell him to stop your climb, give him an altitude, climb and maintain 2,000. Like Endeavor was at 2,000. So climb and maintain 1,500, maintain 1,000 if you can. Whatever. We don't know what the terrain is like around there, but you want to separate. You want to try to get at least 1,000 feet of separation. So you got the RJ coming off, and you could just tell them, maintain. Well, I'm looking at it right now. Endeavor was at 1,900 feet indicated, and the RJ climbed off the deck was at 2,200 feet. I mean, that's insane right there. That's insane right there. In this situation, you got to turn these airplanes. You just don't have the altitude to stop them. You got to turn these airplanes. And not a lazy turn, make left close traffic. Now you got to give them a hard turn, like turn left heading. And then the airplane come off the deck, turn right heading. And you can and if you're not sure what heading to give them, Endeavor 5421, turn left 10 degrees. And then the other guy, the 5511 guy, turn right 10 degrees. At least you got that turn. You got divergence. And then you can put them back on course as soon as you see that they're not going to hit. Terrible, terrible job by air traffic control right there. Say, not even a safety alert. Yeah, bro, he too bad. He's like, got 1,003 engraved in my brain. Yeah, you better keep that engraved in your brain. You need 1,003, bro. You need 1,003.
421 flighting 280, contact departure.
280, Endeavor 5421.
Just like it's all good. No problems here. There's your helicopter landing. There's your 322 Mike X-ray.
Over departure for Endeavor 5421.
5421 Syracuse.
Did you want us over to departure?
Okay, 280 contact departure.
Over to departure, thanks.
And even that, he gave him a heading, and he's like 280 contact departure, and he's like, oh, we're going to departure. Didn't give a departure frequency with everything that's going on. I certainly would have gave a departure frequency. He's at 4,000. Is he level at 4,000? Is he going to turn into this 332 Mike X-ray, which could be a jet? I'm not sure that identifier GLST. I don't know if that's the Global Express, the new identifier for Global Express. I'm not sure. But nah, it can't be. Not at 6,500. That's a VFR airplane. GLST, it might be a Jack Black. What is that, bro? You've been studying our identifiers. GLST might be a glass air. That might be identifier for a glass air. But this is a VFR airplane out here, 6,500. Can't see his speed, but you got Endeavor coming off. Is he in a turn? Is he going to be a factor? Looks like he's level at 4. There's a lot going on here. And you just in contact departure. What frequency does he have? In a situation like that, I will definitely give a frequency. Contact departure 124.6. Contact departure 128.75. I'm going to make sure that they get the correct frequency because there's work that needs to be done out here. This controller sounds real sloppy.
Departure Endeavor 5421, level 4000, 280 heading.
5421, Syracuse departure, radar contact, climb maintain 10,000, turn to left heading to 180.
180 heading up to 10,000, Endeavor 50.
So he's giving him a left turn to 180. That's going to put him in close proximity to this guy 6,500. He's climbing up to 10,000. I didn't even see this part. So you're telling this guy, this RJ, who's level at 4,000, he's doing 210 knots. We know he's doing 210 knots because actually he's doing 210 knots. That's the speed limit below 10,000. So Endeavor is at 4,000 doing 210 knots. You're telling him to turn left heading 180. That's going to put him, and he's climbing to 10,000. So that's going to put him close to this 2 Mike X-ray. Right? So, I mean, again, I don't know what the MVAs and all that stuff is. I don't know this airspace, but if you're going to give him a turn like that, restrict him. If you want to climb, you can climb him up to 6,000. You'll still have 500 feet separation with target. That would be legal, but I would leave him at 5,000. Endeavor 5421, this is departure. Turn left heading 180, climb maintain 5,000. I would give him that. At least you have him at 5, you have this guy at 65. Once you observe the turn, see how tight the turn is, see how wide the turn is. Once you observe the turn, you can call traffic, Endeavor 5421, traffic 2 o'clock, 4 miles, east, right? No, southeast, no, southwest. So southwest or whatever, you can say southwest bound, 6,500 glass here. And then they're like, okay, we're searching. By that time he's turning, he's level, he's passing the guy. Endeavor 5421 traffic, no fire decline, maintain 10,000. I mean, those are just the things you should be doing. That's just basic, solid techniques. I don't know if they're still teaching that, but I know this is like we're in the weeds here. But you want to, wow. And yeah, I was slow figuring out what direction things were, man. It's been a while. I was mostly a tower guy. It's been a while since I worked radar, but yeah, this guy's going southwest bound.
5421.
That's okay. Thank you. That's bad phraseology there. Roger would have worked.
And for 5511, just to verify we're still clear to land 28.
Blue Street 5511, affirmative, runway 28, clear to land.
Clear to land 28, Blue Street 5511.
Yeah, just bad timing. Just if you have anything on your end.
I think I just got it.
Yeah, and that's the controller trying to clean it up. Like, well, it was just bad timing. So if you're not going to say anything, we're not going to say anything. Controllers will try that. You see Endeavor 5421. He's on that 180 heading. You can see that's not going to be a problem with that 2 Mike X-ray. He's good to go. He's climbing up to 10,000. But look where he is. He's at 5,400. If he would have made a lazy turn, he could have gotten close to this guy. You just don't know. It's hard to gauge sometimes. But a lot of people are like, man, look at all that space. He's going to be fine. You just don't know. I know what the airplane can do. I know what pilots can do, but you never know what the pilot is going to do in that airplane. So you tell a guy to turn left and you tell a guy to climb. You just don't know how lazy that turn is going to be. You don't know how fast he's going to climb. But yeah, if you would have put up a 3-mile ring, like it's definitely right at 3 miles. I would imagine. Again, I don't know where they have this thing set up. It's like 5-mile rings here. So I mean, it is what it is, man. Like I said, it's been a long time, but Endeavor looks good now. They can climb up to 10,000. There's 2 Mike X-rays, not a problem. Hand them off to the next, sector or whatever you're doing. And then you got this 5111. The controller's trying to sweet talk him, and 5111 is like, nah, they're gonna have to file paperwork. Yeah, FAA is investigating. Crazy. I mean, this is air traffic control stuff, though, man. This is how it works. Like, it is what it is. It's like, yeah, it hasn't worked in radar yet, man. Yeah, radar is a blast, bro. You'll see it. But you're gonna be a terminal guy at first, and it's all good, man. Wait till you get the radar. It's gonna blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. Glass Hair, not gonna lie, I haven't even heard of that. Glass Hair is like real fast, home built experimental. I wasn't sure that type though. But it's a small single prop. It looks like, yep, that was definitely a small airplane. But that's it, guys. So that one right there, the FAA is investigating, at Syracuse. That was horrible techniques. Same thing when you're working the guys, like you're talking to the airplanes in the skies. The same thing is on the ground. Remember I said, if you're going to give taxi instructions to an airplane, that you need to draw that invisible line all the way down the taxi route that you gave the airplane and make sure there's nothing in the way. When you're going to clear somebody for takeoff or clear somebody to land, it's the same thing. You're clearing somebody to land, right? You're going to look at that airplane out the window because the tower is full of these big old windows. You find that airplane out the window and you look at that, you draw a line, an invisible line from that airplane all the way down to the runway. You look all the way down the runway to the runway end, looking on both sides of the runway. Everything is cool. And as you're doing that, you're saying the call sign, right? What was it? Endeavor 5511, Syracuse Tower, runway 28, cleared to land. You're checking everything. It should be automatic. And then when you clear somebody for takeoff, same thing. You're looking at the runway end where they are. Okay, I see the airplane is talking to me. There they are. It should be, an RJ on my flight progress strip, or on my paperwork right here says an RJ. I see an RJ waiting to go. Okay, cool. I'm going to clear for takeoff. Let me look out the window. So what you do is you look at the runway from the departure end all the way to the approach end where he's sitting, and then you look up to see if anybody's on final. So it's like, all right, Delta 1511, Syracuse Tower, runway 28. Hold short, runway 28, because you're looking like, oh, I just cleared that airplane for takeoff. You look out there, you're looking, you're scanning. Oh, I forgot about that guy. I cleared that guy to land. Hold short, runway 28. Then the airplane lands, and you put Delta in position, or whoever that guy was, right? You put the next airplane in position. You go about whatever you're gonna do. You keep doing ATC stuff, right? Then the helicopter calls in. The alphabet soup guy that wants to land somewhere. Whatever. He can wait. He can't move until he can't do whatever until you talk to him anyway. So the scan is what saves you. Those are the solid techniques that I was taught back in the day, back in the 90s. It's the scan. Forget the technology. Forget about the radar. Forget about all this stuff. Look out the window. I was always armed with a pair of binoculars. I'm constantly looking around. Look out the window. Scan. Every time I got in trouble is because I did a poor scan. You always want to do a good scan, right? And you want solid techniques like that. Clearing guys to land on the first transmission, normally it's not a real solid technique, but, I get it. If that's how the airport works, November 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, St. Tower, runway 18, clear to land. I can do that on initial call. He could be 20 miles away. It's not a big thing. I know what's going on. I'm scanning. But I really don't like to give landing clearances until I'm ready to get that guy cleared. I want him within 3 miles, generally speaking. I can see the airplane out there. I done scanned the runway, clear to land. And then I know, like, I got somebody landing. And I know in my mind, I'm not trying to squeeze anybody out. I don't have enough room. But that controller just sound real lackadaisical. The make left traffic stuff, just lackadaisical. There was absolutely an approach control involved. And he's not, I guess he was coordinating with the controller. He came offline, so he's not separating the airplanes. He's more concerned with getting permission to give somebody left traffic when he should be restricting these airplanes. The radar controller is sitting there like, what the hell is this? These two guys are lit up right on top of each other. Like, yo, what's this? So that's just an example of lackadaisical air traffic controller with very, very bad technique, in my opinion. And that controller probably didn't get in trouble. He probably didn't get in trouble at all. Like, air traffic controllers must drink lots of coffee. Some do. They drink a lot of tequila, a lot of whiskey. Some drink a lot of coffee. Some drink a lot of caffeine. I was a caffeine guy. I would drink Mountain Dews and Dr. Peppers. Yeah, bro, yikes for real. But that's it, guys. The problem with air traffic control, in my opinion, are people with poor techniques. Maybe they weren't taught to have solid techniques. Maybe they're just lazy. And they're not taking the job as seriously as they should, man. I was taught, man, control these airplanes as if your mom is on board, as if your brother and sisters are on board, right? Because somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's brother, someone's sister, they're on board these airplanes. So you got some controllers who were just playing, like, acting like it's a video game, and you have controllers who were like real serious and just giving the best possible service they can. It is what it is. And now you just got all these controllers at these major airports getting overworked. So, and even with all that said, air traffic Airplanes still the safest way to travel. 100% the safest way to travel. You know, I know people are like, man, I'm scared to fly, but you ain't afraid to drive because boy, every time I get in the car here in Florida, in Central Florida, I wonder if I'm gonna make it home in one piece. You know, these cars be just stacked on top of each other. Flying an airplane, you're much safer. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys. I just wanted to talk about what happened in Atlanta today. We're definitely gonna try to keep up with that. I really believe that this is 100% on the ground controller. We'll see how it plays out with the NTSB reports and all that, how the FAA wants to play it. Delta is definitely going to get 2 brand new airplanes from the United States government because there's ATC that was all over that. ATC messed that up. And then that thing in Syracuse, that was just horrible air traffic controlling. That is the absolute worst case scenario. I don't know what they did to that controller. Maybe that was an older controller. Maybe he retired. I don't know, but that was just horrible. I'll keep my eyes out on these mid-airs or these near misses and whatnot, these mishaps on, you know, in the ATC world, and we'll talk about them just so you guys know. And if you guys see anything, you want to send it to me because the video we just watched on the Syracuse thing, Miss AKA lady sent that to me. And she was asking me about it. I'm like, whoa, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. And again, that scenario, you just got 2 airplanes climbing out, one below the other. All you have to do is restrict this one. Just only let him climb so far. Maintain 1,000. Bet. Tell this guy, you know, climb and maintain 5,000 or whatever, 4,000. But get him level. And if you don't want to do that, turn him. Simple as that. Turn them. Turn both. Turn one left, turn one right. All of the rules are out of the window when you got a situation like that. Our job is to prevent collisions in the system. You're allowed to do whatever you need to do to get out of that situation. So all he had to do was turn one 10 degrees left, turn the other one 10 degrees right, and get out of that situation. And then once you do that, just kind of get back on track as soon as you can. But you've separated the airplanes. That controller, in my opinion, failed to separate the airplanes. Crazy, crazy, crazy. How safe are trains compared to planes? I don't know. These trains keep derailing and crashing into stuff, man. I think airplanes are the safest form of travel, man, hands down. People keep trying to cross the railroad tracks in front of trains and getting hit. I think planes are the safest way to travel, bro. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're welcome, man. Appreciate it. You're welcome for the lecture, slant presentation. Just trying to give you guys a little taste of what it's like in that ATC world. And driving is definitely the worst, brother. And Casual Germs in the building. What's good, fam? Yeah, we're done. You missed the stream. We're done. But check out Team Replay, bro. We were just breaking down what's going on in the world of air traffic control. I hope you like it. You know, if people like it, if people are watching these type videos, we'll do more. You know, I have no problem looking at stuff, and we can really get into the weeds if y'all want to. I can show you the rules right out of the book, the 7110.65. There's a big old book full of rules for air traffic control, and everything is spelled out in there. And then Casual Germs like, but you got to think. You were in the military, so you know how to place yourself in the planes without being in one. Yeah, that may have something to do with it, bro. Maybe a lot of, it maybe has something to do with it. It was just, me, I really cared about what I was doing. I didn't want people to get hurt. I wanted to do the best I possibly could. I wanted to be the best controller I could be, not so I could have bragging rights. It's just so I can sleep at night. Like, bro, I know I gave the best service. And there were times where things went bad, but I could rest my hat on the fact that it wasn't me. Right? Like, it's just like, nah, that wasn't me. I did what I was supposed to do. I saw it. It is what it is. We're human. But I would be able to rest my hat on the fact that I did the best job possible, and I was paying attention. And, I had the admiration of the people to work with me. Like, bro, if things were crazy, I was the guy they wanted. It's something nice to be that dude. Like, you walking in, get a dude. Like, oh, yeah, we got Saint. Bro, we got him going. He's going to handle this because it's going to be crazy. Or, hey, we got Julie here today. Like, and we had initials. So all the controllers just had initials. Like, oh, JT's here, we're money. You know what I mean? DL's here, oh, we're money. You just know, like, who I got. I got TT here today. Yeah, Mike is here. Yeah, we good to go. When you look at that, then other times you got initials, people like, oh man, I got ZZ here. Lord have mercy. Let's find something for him to do. You know what I mean? I got QU here. What am I gonna do with her? I'm gonna find something for her to do. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's gonna be busy around this time. So let me get them working when it's not busy. Some people just make you work harder, and some people you don't have to worry about. I guess that's with every job though, isn't it? And I'm glad you like that, brother. Educated Tyrone. Like I said, we'll keep doing it. If you see something, send it to me, and we'll review it. But that's all I got, guys. I'm done. Appreciate y'all rocking out with me. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. We're gonna be talking some more about dating and all that good stuff, man. We'll be talking about some manosphere stuff tomorrow. I found something I want to talk about, man. It's like I think you guys will like it. So just tune in tomorrow. Look for the thumbnail right here, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm DL Saint. This is I Really Want to Know podcast, man. I'm gonna holler at y'all later. Have a good night. Peace.
Nothing like I've ever seen. It's just a thing of beauty.
Darn, that's the end.